I woke up inside a trashy romance novel where the devoted backup guy gets used, humiliated, and eventually abandoned. The story was supposed to climax at a dramatic wedding scene where the female lead dramatically chooses her real love and tosses the stand-in aside like an old receipt. What nobody accounted for was that I, the guy who got transmigrated into this walking disaster, had absolutely zero interest in playing the loyal fool. When the moment finally came and she turned to me with cold eyes and said, "He's here now. You're dismissed," I looked at the boutonniere on my lapel, looked at the microphone stand beside the stage, and made a very practical decision. I unpinned the boutonniere, picked up the mic, cleared my throat. "Ladies and gentlemen, please put your hands together for today's happy couple. Your gold-certified ceremony host is here." The female lead looked at me like I'd just spoken in an alien language. The male lead who'd dramatically burst through the doors blinked twice. The guests who'd come specifically for the chaos were experiencing a collective system error. I nearly collapsed from holding in the laughter. Being a romantic stand-in was genuinely the most unremarkable item on my list of 47 active income streams. Chapter 1. The wind had a bite to it as I flew down the street on my electric scooter, a tower of takeout bags strapped to the back rack. The restaurant app showed 17 completed orders. Not bad for a Tuesday afternoon. I pulled up to the destination, a sprawling entertainment complex downtown, handed the bags to the lobby receptionist, mentally calculated my tip average for the week, and turned toward the elevator. On the way up I peeled off the orange delivery vest, smoothed down the collared shirt underneath, ran a hand through my hair, and assembled my expression into something warm and faintly melancholy. A guy who radiates quiet devotion. Slightly tragic around the eyes. The kind of face that makes people want to ask if you're okay. I'd practiced it in the mirror for 2 weeks. Worth every second. I pushed open the private lounge door and let my gaze drift slowly across the room until it landed on the woman in the far corner. I let my voice go soft and worried. "Bella. It's almost midnight. This part of the city isn't safe. I came to take you home." The entire room went quiet. Heads turned. Someone's cocktail glass paused halfway to a mouth. One of the guys lounging on the sectional couch started laughing first. "Midnight? It's 2:15 in the afternoon, man. What are you even talking about?" The room erupted. Bella's expression curdled instantly. She looked at me with the specific variety of annoyance reserved for people who have disappointed you so thoroughly that even anger feels like too much effort. "Felix." Her voice was flat. "How many times? You are a substitute. A paid stand-in. Ryan's placeholder. Stop appearing in front of me like you have any right to." I lowered my head. Let my jaw tighten slightly. Turned just enough that the room couldn't see my face, and quietly reached into my jacket pocket for the small dropper bottle I kept specifically for occasions like this. 2 quick squeezes into the inner corners of my eyes. When I looked up, my eyes were glistening. Red at the rims. The effect was devastating. "Bella," I said, voice rough at the edges. "I'm not here for the money." She stared at me with utter contempt, reached into her designer bag, and withdrew a thick envelope. She flung it at my chest with the energy of someone throwing garbage into a bin. "Take it and disappear." I swayed slightly from the impact, looked down at the scattered cash, and allowed my expression to crumple in a very convincing way. Then I turned around and walked out with the slow, heavy steps of a man whose heart had been stepped on. The second the door closed behind me, I broke into a sprint toward the service corridor. Chapter 2. The staff restroom on that floor was, as I had scouted previously, conveniently located between the private lounge and the back stairwell. Inside, 1 change of clothes, neatly folded. 1 maintenance cap. 1 dust mask. A mop, leaning against the wall where I'd left it before the shift. I changed in under 90 seconds. Emerging in the gray uniform of a facilities worker, head down, mop in hand, I walked directly back into the private lounge. Nobody glanced twice. Rich people in expensive rooms have a remarkable talent for not seeing the people who clean up after them. The scattered cash was still all over the floor. I mopped slowly and methodically toward it. I was in the final sweep, practically done, when a voice like a blade dropping on marble rang out behind me. "You! Stop moving." My left eyelid twitched once. I kept mopping. I said stop. Bella appeared in my peripheral vision, arms crossed. "Take off the hat. Turn around." I weighed my options in about half a second. Then I pulled off the cap. Underneath, a bald pate, slightly shiny, with 2 small patches of unflattering hair above the ears. I'd spent 40 minutes on this look. The prosthetic was hospital grade. I turned around slowly, let my eyes go soft and unfocused, and smiled in the most deeply uncomfortable way I could manage. "Well, hello there, gorgeous. What's a lady like you doing talking to a humble floor wiper like me?" Bella recoiled. Not dramatically, just that small involuntary step backward that the body makes before the brain has time to stop it. She'd never seen this face before in her life. Good. That was the point. I leaned the mop against a table and shuffled forward with the unhurried confidence of a man who has absolutely no awareness that he is unwelcome. She retreated into the corner. I followed, close enough that she could smell the lunch I'd eaten, specifically engineered to include the maximum possible olfactory offense. I know a great little place, I murmured, at a frequency that suggested I had spent many years developing this patter. Your big brother here will take you somewhere real nice. Bella's palm connected with my face. I dropped to the floor, wrapped both arms around her ankle, and looked up at her with an expression of complete spiritual fulfillment. Again, I breathed. Please. Don't stop. The lounge erupted. Bella screamed for security. I heard boots in the corridor, fast, professional, organized. Exactly on schedule. I stuffed the recovered cash into my jacket, grabbed the mop as a vaulting pole, hit the door at a full sprint, caught the second-floor railing, swung myself onto the staircase, and was in the restroom changing back into my street clothes before the first guard reached the lounge entrance. 2 minutes later I walked out of the same restroom, now wearing the navy polo of the building's contracted security firm, and nearly collided with a colleague who was radioing in a description of the suspect. What's going on? I asked, frowning with concern. Some creep in the VIP lounge just assaulted a guest and ran for it. Headed toward the bathrooms. I shook my head grimly. Terrible. Let's go check. We went. We found nothing. Because I was nothing, and nothing is very good at hiding. Chapter 3. About 14 months ago I woke up inside a novel. The novel was the kind of story that takes itself extremely seriously while doing everything in its power to make the reader's brain cells file a formal complaint. The premise involved a devoted, selfless male lead, same name as me, Felix, who spent the entire story being emotionally eviscerated by a woman who treated him as furniture. 998 chapters of this. Then in the final chapter, having married her actual love, the female lead experiences a sudden moment of clarity and wonders why she doesn't feel fulfilled. She turns back. Felix, who has been waiting in place like a very patient lamppost, forgives her instantly and completely. Love triumphs. I read enough of the original before transmigrating to know one thing with absolute certainty. That was not going to be my story. I have no room in my schedule for suffering on behalf of someone else's character arc. I have a delivery quota, 3 active part-time contracts, a live streaming channel, 2 freelance consulting gigs, and a standing weekly poker game that funds approximately 30% of my operating costs. Being a romantic stand-in is genuinely the most low-effort thing I do. That evening I was soaking my feet in a wooden basin, eating a roasted corn cob I'd picked up from the cart downstairs, when my door slammed open hard enough to bounce off the wall. Bella stood in the frame. She looked like a weather system that had developed a personal grievance. Felix. I looked at her. Looked at the door. Looked at the corn. You know, I said thoughtfully, I keep meaning to get a deadbolt. Do you have any idea what I went through today? Her voice rose steadily. I pay you every month. Every month. And you don't show up, you don't check in, you're completely useless as a... I stood up, set down the corn, and slapped her. Not hard. But decisively. The kind of slap that says, I have heard enough of this particular sentence. Bella went completely still. Her eyes turned into something volcanic. She raised her hand. I was already running. My socks were excellent for sliding on hardwood, a fact I had previously confirmed during a fire drill, and I used them now to their full potential, skidding around the corner of the hallway as the first projectile, a decorative candle, sailed past my head. Get back here. I'd already done the geometry of this apartment many times. There were 3 routes to the front door and 1 to the balcony. I chose the balcony, vaulted the railing onto the fire escape, and pressed myself against the wall outside my own window while Bella searched the apartment with the energy of a person who has fully committed to a course of action and cannot stop now. She found me 12 minutes later when I tried to quietly re-enter through the kitchen window. You, she said. Technically, I said, I was never not here. This is a philosophical matter. She grabbed the collar of my shirt and I could tell she was weighing whether to cry or to commit violence. She went with neither. She let go, smoothed her jacket, and looked at me with an expression of exhausted superiority. Ryan is coming back tomorrow. I know, I said. So be useful for once and do your job properly. She left. I finished my corn. I soaked my feet. I calculated that Ryan's return was going to be extremely profitable. Chapter 4 in the source material, Ryan's return from abroad was the inciting event for the novel's second act. He'd spent years overseas building a career in media, returned with both talent and connections, and was positioned to become the city's most prominent figure in entertainment. I, having read the original, knew exactly when his flight landed. As a business opportunity, this was obvious. An upcoming major public figure with zero local press coverage, arriving at an airport with no protective infrastructure in place yet, the photographic potential alone was worth getting up early for. I arrived 2 hours before his scheduled landing and found a good position near the arrivals corridor. The moment Ryan cleared the exit, I understood the problem. He was surrounded by a competent advance team that materialized from nowhere and formed a moving perimeter around him within seconds of his appearance. They were heading for the side exit at speed. I had approximately 8 seconds to make a decision. I made a bad one. I ran. Specifically, I ran after them, shouting at the top of my voice, "Ryan! After all this time, Ryan, how am I supposed to just move on? Ryan, you can't do this to me. Ryan!" He stopped. Turned. His security team looked at each other. I caught up, breathing hard, holding out a pen with what I hoped was a reasonable smile. "Just a few autographs." He took off his sunglasses. I heard his voice. My hand holding the pen became briefly uncertain. That voice. That exact cadence and rhythm. The way he dropped slightly on the second syllable of every longer word. I knew that voice. I had spent approximately 60 hours online in the last 3 months listening to that voice call out attack coordinates, complain about server lag, and demand to know who had taken the last health pack from the communal supply. I said carefully, "For the undying glory," he blinked. Then, very quietly, "Of the eternal host." I stared at him. He stared at me. "You're the one," I said slowly, "who spent 45 minutes blaming the team for a loss that was entirely caused by you charging a fortified position alone with no backup and 17% health." Ryan lunged forward and covered my mouth with both hands. "Do not," he said, very close to my ear, "say my username. Ever. In public. Under any circumstances." From this angle, to anyone watching, we looked like two people engaged in a very emotional reunion hug. From further away, one specific person had apparently decided she knew exactly what this meant. "What are you doing?" I turned around. Bella stood 20 feet away, her expression moving through several stages of something complicated. Her lips were shaking slightly. "George," she said, using the wrong name, because she'd always used the wrong name, "is this your revenge? You turned Ryan into what, exactly?" I said. She pointed at us. At the close proximity. At Ryan's hand still somewhat near my face. You know what I mean." Ryan stepped back, composed himself instantly, and gave her a perfectly neutral smile. "Bella. You look well." Bella blinked. Something rearranged itself in her expression. She looked at him with the specific quality of attention she reserved for things she wanted very much. "Ryan," she said softly. "Long time." Chapter 5, Felix, Bella said, appearing at my shoulder 40 minutes later with a 100-watt smile that she was directing entirely past me. "Come shopping with us." I looked at Ryan. Ryan looked at me with the expression of someone who has recently discovered that an online gaming partnership translates into a complicated real-world dynamic. "For every item he buys me," Bella continued, in a tone of profound generosity, "I'll pay you 5,000. I was in the middle of composing a refusal. 10,000, she said, apparently reading my face. The refusal evaporated. I put on my professional expression, attentive, helpful, deeply familiar with retail environments, and led them into the mall. The thing about retail experience is that it gives you a very specific skill set. You learn which products have the highest markup. You learn which stores are optimized for emotional spending. You learn, above all, how to read what a customer actually wants versus what they say they want, and how to redirect one toward the other without them noticing. I steered us efficiently past every luxury anchor store. Bella's expression when she realized we were approaching a discount homeware outlet was genuinely worth documenting. Ryan caught on immediately. He picked up a ceramic fruit bowl, turned it over thoughtfully, and looked at the price tag with the expression of a man who is about to spend a very deliberate 300 yuan. "This is nice," he said. Bella's face went to a place beyond language. I kept a completely straight expression and helped him evaluate 7 more items, including a set of plastic storage containers, a mop head, and a small decorative owl made of resin. By the end of the hour, Bella had received 12 items purchased with evident thought and care. Each one cost less than the tip Ryan would have left at the parking garage. Bella pulled me aside near the exit, her jaw set. "You did that on purpose." "I did my job," I said. "You specified items. No minimum value was established in the contract." She looked at me with the expression of someone composing a very long internal document. I added, helpfully, the owl is actually quite charming. It has a certain, Felix. Yes. When I love someone, she said, her voice dropping, I would accept a proposal made with a rubber band and a clear conscience. She paused. But this, she gestured at the owl, is not that. She walked away. Her phone made a notification sound. I checked mine. 1.2 million yuan, transferred. I looked at the owl. You did this, I told it. It did not respond. But I kept it anyway. Chapter 6, Felix. You free Saturday morning? The voice on the phone had the particular quality of someone who has never once in their life worried about whether a question would receive a yes. This was Damien, Bella's half-brother, the company's primary shareholder dispute, and, in the source material, designated antagonist. He was also, in practice, the most straightforward person I dealt with professionally. He paid on time, gave clear instructions, and never asked for anything that required me to manufacture emotions. Saturday's tight, I said. 80,000, he said. Blind date coverage. Saturday just opened up, I said. What's the brief? Old family connection. My father wants to appear cooperative with the merger discussions. I need someone presentable who will attend the lunch, be pleasant, and subtly undermine the potential for anything to progress romantically. Sabotage disguised as participation. Efficiently summarized. She's experienced with this sort of arrangement, apparently her family runs a similar operation on their side. Don't expect to fool anyone. I changed into something appropriate, added glasses that added 4 years and a graduate school atmosphere, and arrived at the restaurant 9 minutes early, which is the correct amount of early. The woman was already there. She was looking out the window with the air of someone who has made peace with most situations in advance. I said, you must be, I checked my notes, Celeste? She turned around. Her face was genuinely unexpected. Not the polished, practiced beauty of someone who has been positioned for strategic marriage. Something younger. Clearer. Faintly amused, already. It's Clara, she said. You're not Damien. I'm representing him today, I said, sitting down. You're not, I'm representing my sister today, she said. We looked at each other. Well, I said. Well, she agreed. We ordered food. We ate it in comfortable quiet with occasional observations about the restaurant's choice of background music. Neither of us asked the questions that blind date lunches are structurally designed to generate. It was, genuinely, one of the more pleasant meals I'd had in months. When the check came, she looked at me thoughtfully. My work WeChat, she said, or personal? I pulled out my phone and opened the wrong account. She looked at my profile photo, me, in the delivery vest, holding a thermal bag, giving a thumbs up to the camera. Teacher Zhou, she said, with certainty. I looked at her more carefully. Student Mia? I said. She nodded, looking slightly guilty. Online tutorial platform. You taught me calculus last spring. I taught approximately 400 students last spring, I said. Through 6 different platforms under 4 different names. I recognize the thumbs up, she said. Fair. That was fair. Same deal, I said. Neither of us was actually here. Agreed, she said. She paid for her half. I paid for mine. We went our separate ways with the particular ease of 2 people who have accidentally understood each other. Chapter 7. The villa assignment had come in 3 weeks earlier through a property management agency I occasionally worked with. The posting described a maintained residence whose owner was rarely in residence, minimal duties, comfortable environment, flexible hours. I'd taken it immediately. For 22 days it was exactly as advertised. I watered the plants. I signed for deliveries. I watched streaming content on the main floor television and felt, for the first time in recent memory, approximately rested. Then a message arrived at 6 in the evening informing me that the owner's daughter would be arriving overnight. I changed into the formal household staff uniform, charcoal gray, high collar, very structured, and positioned myself at the main entrance at the stated arrival time. A car pulled up. A door opened. I had half a second to register the face before I thanked every reasonable instinct I possessed for having put on the half-mask component of the uniform. Bella. She walked toward the entrance with the slightly distracted energy of someone whose mind was already inside the building. I held the door and began the standard welcoming statement. A second car pulled up behind hers. Ryan got out. He crossed the driveway in 4 strides, pulled Bella toward him by the waist, and proceeded to demonstrate that they had apparently resolved whatever tension had existed between them at the airport. I stopped talking. I looked at the driveway. I looked at the decorative gravel. I looked at the large ceramic planter to my left. The driver of Bella's car gave me a sympathetic look. I returned it in full. 11 minutes passed. I know because I counted. There was nothing else to do. Eventually they moved toward the entrance, walking in a way that suggested the villa's interior was their destination only as a technicality. I followed at a professional distance, eyes forward, carrying the overnight bag that had been left unattended on the driveway. Inside, under better lighting, Ryan glanced sideways at me and went extremely still. I nodded almost imperceptibly. He blinked. Then he extracted himself from Bella's arms with practiced smoothness, guided her to the sofa, and administered a very precise pressure point strike to the back of her neck. She went limp immediately. Ryan looked at her. Looked at me. Pulled a packet of sanitizing wipes from his jacket and cleaned his hands with the focused attention of someone who takes hygiene seriously. "Felix," he said pleasantly. "Interesting to see you here." "It's a side job," I said. "How many do you have?" 47 active. A few seasonal. He nodded like this was a reasonable number. "I have a business proposition." "I'm listening," I said. He looked at Bella, unconscious and peaceful on the antique settee. "She's been offered 2 parallel arrangements," he said, "and she is managing both of them in ways that are going to become a significant problem for several parties, including but not limited to yourself." He paused. "I'd like to address that problem. Publicly. Comprehensively. I need someone I can trust." I considered this for approximately 4 seconds. "What's the payment structure?" I asked. Chapter 8, Felix. Don't delude yourself about your position. Bella looped her arm through mine with the warmth of someone gripping a railing for balance, and addressed the remark to the middle distance. I glanced at her sideways. She caught the glance and bristled. "What kind of face is that?" "Nothing," I said. My eye was twitching. She examined me with brief suspicion, found nothing incriminating in my expression, and apparently decided to feel complimented by whatever she'd imagined she saw there. Ryan and Bella had been in some form of conflict for 2 weeks. The specific cause changed depending on who was telling the story. The functional outcome was that Bella had decided the most effective response was to attend tonight's industry gala with me on her arm, maximally visible, maximally pointed. I had charged a surcharge for gala events since the 2nd month of this arrangement. She had never questioned it. I found a strategic position near the food stations, this was not accidental, and constructed a plate of considerable ambition while maintaining my professional effect. In the corner of my vision, Ryan arrived 40 minutes into the event and scanned the room without appearing to scan it. A voice appeared directly beside my left ear. "Teacher Zhou." I inhaled a piece of prawn. Clara stood there, looking genuinely apologetic as she handed me a glass of water. I drank it, coughed, recovered. "We have got to stop meeting like this," I said. "I didn't follow you," she said. "My company has a table." "Neither did I. I'm here professionally." "As what?" "Arm decoration." She considered this. "For Bella Liu? You know her?" "Everyone in this industry knows her." Clara picked up a small tartlet from the adjacent platter and examined it. "She's been running 2 parallel arrangements for about 4 months. Most people have figured it out. Nobody's said anything yet because nobody wants to be the one who says it." I looked at her. "You know a lot about this," I said. "My sister was briefly in one of the arrangements," she said. "She's fine. She got out early." A timer I had set on my phone buzzed once, very quietly, against my wrist. "Excuse me," I said. "Something's about to start." The lights in the hall went out. Chapter 9. I regained consciousness in a warehouse. The ceiling was high, the lighting was one bare bulb, and my hands were secured behind a support column with what I recognized, after a few test pulls, as a contractor-grade zip tie. Beside me, also secured, were Ryan and Clara. Ryan looked mildly inconvenienced. Clara looked like she was compiling a mental checklist. A man with a scar running from his cheekbone to his jaw stood in front of us with the posture of someone who has been rehearsing this moment. "All 3 are awake," said someone behind him. "Bella Liu," the scarred man said, with the energy of someone pronouncing a name that has caused them significant sleep disruption over a long period, "never expected her choices to catch up with her like this." I looked around the warehouse. Looked at my fellow captives. "I'm sorry," I said. "Which one of us is Bella?" He blinked. "Because," I continued, "none of us is Bella. She's probably at a skincare appointment right now. You may have grabbed the wrong people." His composure cracked slightly at the edges. "You're her people. Her consequences reach you." "I'm a freelance contractor on a fixed-term arrangement," I said. "The liability clauses in my agreement are extremely clear about situations exactly like this one." Ryan made a small sound beside me that might have been a suppressed laugh. The scarred man's jaw tightened. He walked toward me and grabbed my collar. 40 seconds, I said pleasantly. "What?" "I've been working on the tie since I woke up. I need 40 more seconds." "Keep talking." He stared at me. You were saying something about consequences? I prompted. He let go. He took a step back. He opened his mouth. My hands came free. I stood up, rolled my shoulders, and looked at the assembled group of men who had kidnapped us. Hi, I said. Previously worked in collections and debt resolution. Before that, competitive athletics. Currently, multiple active contracts, significant financial motivation to return to them. I took off my jacket. The tattoo coverage was, I will admit, quite impressive for someone with my general presentation. Several people's expressions shifted. Clara, from beside the support column, said, Teacher Zhou. Please try to leave everyone with the ability to provide sworn testimony later. Of course, I said. Ryan craned to see past me, looked at my build and the tattoo sleeve with genuine appreciation, and said, finally. I've been waiting to see what you actually looked like. Chapter 10. It took 14 minutes, a fire extinguisher I found near the side door, and a level of creative problem-solving that I had not anticipated needing on a Wednesday, but all 6 men were eventually zip-tied to the structural columns they'd been using as anchor points for us. The scarred man sat at the end of the row, his expression a specific mixture of wounded pride and disbelief. Okay, I said, crouching to eye level. Original plan. He told me. He was, under the circumstances, cooperative. The plan had been to call Bella on video, force her to choose between Ryan and her stand-in, and use the outcome for leverage. In the source material, she had chosen Ryan without hesitation. The stand-in had watched this happen in real time. I thought about that for a moment. And her? I nodded toward Clara. Wrong place, he admitted. Clara exhaled quietly beside me. I want that on record somewhere. Noted, I said. Ryan, you want to handle the call? Ryan was already dialing. He held the phone toward the scarred man, who made a visible decision that cooperation was the better available option. Bella answered immediately. On the screen her face was tightly controlled but her eyes were moving fast. I stepped forward, face hidden below frame, and pitched my voice down. We have 2 people, I said. You know who they are. 10% of your personal share portfolio and both of them come back. You decide in the next 3 minutes. 5 minutes, she said immediately. 3. A pause. Fine, she said. But I want proof there. I tilted the phone toward Ryan, who waved with 2 fingers. Then toward Clara, who said, I'm filing a formal complaint with everyone involved when this is over. Bella transferred the funds in under 2 minutes. Faster than I expected. Faster, I suspected, than she'd expected of herself. I hung up. I called emergency services. I recounted the situation clearly and provided the address. Then I untied the 6 men. They looked at me with alarm. You have about 4 minutes, I said. Use them however you'd like. Personally, I'd run. They ran. They were apprehended on the street by the first unit to arrive. I have another identity, a civic-minded freelance consultant with a clean record and a reliable relationship with the local public safety office. The emergency services team knew my voice. I'd called in 3 times before under various circumstances and always with accurate information. Upstanding citizen. Defending justice. Basic obligation. Chapter 11. 3 weeks after the warehouse situation, I was sitting in the hospital waiting area. Having been brought in for a precautionary check, mostly because Clara had insisted and she had a very particular quality of insistence that made refusal feel unreasonable, when a commotion reached me from the corridor outside the cardiology wing. A woman's voice, escalating rapidly. A cluster of medical staff attempting to engage with her professionally. The sound of someone who has decided that the normal rules of a healthcare facility do not apply to her specific emergency. I already knew the voice. I pulled my hat down slightly and stayed very still. The commotion moved closer. A harried-looking attending physician appeared briefly in the doorway, saw me, and, with the desperation of someone who has tried everything available to them, held up a spare set of scrubs. You're the one who passed the surgical support interview last week, she said. I also have 4 other active contracts, I started. We need a body in the room. It's observation only. Please. I took the scrubs. Inside the observation wing, Bella was explaining to 3 senior physicians why her boyfriend had not spoken to her for 63 minutes. She was currently developing a theory about kidney function. I stood behind a monitor and focused very hard on not existing. We need to call in George, Bella announced. She had the wrong name as always. He can donate. I've already decided. The patient, the attending physician said, with remarkable patience, has shown no abnormal indicators in any of the panels we've run. Then run more panels, Bella said. My pager went off. The room went quiet. I looked at it. Looked at the room. Looked at the door, which was unfortunately across the room from where I was standing. Bella turned. We looked at each other. Felix, she said, in a tone that suggested she was deciding several things simultaneously. Why are you here? What are you doing? Are you trying to harm Ryan somehow? I'm supporting clinical staff, I said. You're here to steal his kidney. That is not how kidneys work logistically. She pointed at me. You are obsessed with me. You have followed me to this hospital. You will do anything to stop me from being happy, including medical sabotage. I picked up the nearest sedative syringe, it had been prepared in case Ryan's monitoring showed acute distress, and evaluated my options. Felix, if you dare, I dared. She sat down. Gently. Completely. The room exhaled. I put the syringe back, removed the scrubs, and walked to the door. The attending physician looked at me. Don't worry, I said. She'll be confused when she wakes up, but the dosage is safe. She gave me a long look. Then she gave me a thumbs up. I walked out into the corridor, where Ryan was sitting in a visitor chair eating a vending machine sandwich and very much not in any kind of organ failure. How long have you been out here? I said. The whole time, he said. I needed to think. She doesn't do well with that. You could have told someone. You handled it beautifully, he said. Chapter 12. When Bella resurfaced 4 weeks later, she sent a single text message. It read, Felix. Noon. Grand Meridian Hotel. We're getting married today. Followed, after a 2-minute gap, by a second message, I love you. I read both messages. I sat with them for a moment. Then I put on the cheap suit I kept specifically for appearances that required me to look like I'd made an effort, pinned on the boutonniere I'd sourced from the lobby flower stand on my way in, and went to the hotel. The ballroom was full. The kind of full that suggested either a very popular event or a very aggressive guest list, and in this case it appeared to be both. I found a position near the aisle and observed. The whispers started immediately. Most of them were about me. Several guests appeared to believe I was about to do something dramatic. One woman near the back actually took out her phone before I'd done anything at all. Ryan appeared at the front in a tailored suit, flanked by his actual family and his actual team, looking like a man who has arrived at a conclusion after a long and carefully reasoned process. Bella came down the aisle in white. Her eyes found me immediately and her mouth curved into the specific smile of someone who has designed a situation entirely for the purpose of humiliating one person in front of many people. She lifted the microphone. Felix, she said. Whatever you thought this was, it was never what you thought. Ryan is here. You can leave with what little dignity you have remaining. I looked at the boutonniere. Looked at the corsage on the standing mic stand to my left, which I had placed there 20 minutes ago. I unpinned the boutonniere. I walked to the mic stand. I pinned on the corsage. I picked up the microphone. Good afternoon, everyone, I said warmly. I'm your host for today's ceremony. Let's get this started. Big round of applause, please, for the happy couple. We'll begin with the exchange of. Ryan raised one hand. The room went quiet. He said, Bella. She looked at him. Her expression was still calibrated for triumph. He reached into his jacket and produced a ring box. Opened it. Let her see. Then he closed it. You planned this, he said. Both of it. You've been planning this for months. He looked at her with something that wasn't cruelty but wasn't softness either. It was the expression of someone who has been paying attention all along and has decided the time for pretending not to has ended. You ran 2 arrangements simultaneously. You used one as leverage against the other. You were prepared to burn both. The reporters Bella had personally invited were getting everything they needed. Ryan nodded toward the screen at the back of the hall. It lit up. Chapter 13. What played on the screen was not the romantic highlight reel that Bella had commissioned. It was a recording of a meeting. The meeting had taken place in a private room, 3 months earlier, between Bella and a man who stood to benefit significantly from a specific corporate succession outcome. The recording was clear. The conversation was unambiguous. The room watched it in the specific silence of people who have gotten much more than they bargained for. Bella stood at the front of the aisle with her bouquet and the expression of someone watching a controlled demolition from a very short distance. When the recording ended, Ryan said, "The child you mentioned." I looked into the timing. You understand why that conversation is also recorded. Bella's voice, when it came, was very quiet. You planned all of this. I noticed something was off, he said. I paid attention. I asked for help from someone I trusted. He glanced sideways at me. I gave a modest wave. The timing was mine, he said. Public visibility at a high-profile event tends to create a more durable record than a private conversation. He picked up his jacket from the chair behind him, thanked the assembled guests for their time, and walked past Bella toward the exit. The reporters, to their considerable professional credit, caught every second of it. Bella turned toward where I was standing. You, she said. Your MC, I said. At your service. Would you like to say a few closing words, or shall I thank everyone for? She walked out. The ballroom held a moment of collective silence. Then, in the way that shock sometimes converts instantly into entertainment, the room erupted. Chapter 14. The next 2 days online were extraordinary. The recording went wide within hours. By the following morning, the video of me smoothly transitioning from wedding guest to ceremony host, boutonniere to corsage, unbroken composure, had generated more discussion than the recording itself. The clip was titled, by someone with a reasonable sense of humor, When Plan A Ends, Plan B Hosts. My various accounts were located by the internet with remarkable efficiency. Delivery records. Streaming archives. Security consultant reviews. Online tutorial ratings. The OWL purchase receipt had somehow been found and was circulating as an artifact of significant cultural interest. I spent the morning monitoring the comment sections with professional detachment. How many jobs does this person have? I counted 11 so far, and I'm not done. The calculus student who came forward. I cannot stop thinking about this timeline. Clara sent me a message. It said, I saw the ceremony video. Very smooth. I said, thank you. The corsage was there because I put it there in advance. She said, I know. I watched you do it. A pause. She said, do you want to get coffee sometime? Not as representatives for anyone else. I looked at the message for a moment. I said, Saturday at 11. The place near the East Station. Not the chain, the independent one. She said, I know the one. Chapter 15. 3 months after the ceremony, I was sitting at my desk working through the final chapters of a project I'd started shortly after arriving in this world. 14 months earlier, I'd realized that I had, technically, access to the complete source material. I knew the plot. I knew the characters. I knew every turn and every manipulation and every chapter of sustained, largely unnecessary suffering. I'd started writing an alternate version. The logic was simple, I was already here. The material was already in my head. The time I spent commuting between jobs was otherwise wasted. The version I wrote was different from the source in several respects. The stand-in had functional self-respect. The antagonist had coherent motivations and was given a resolution that made structural sense. The female lead was written as someone making choices with real consequences rather than being perpetually rescued from them. Most significantly, I removed the implicit assumption that men owe patience without limit and that women deserve forgiveness without reciprocity. This had not been a popular element of the original. I had no interest in preserving it. The comment I'd been waiting on appeared at the bottom of the final chapter. Is this actually finished or are you doing an epilogue? I typed back, finished. Ended 2 minutes ago. Clara, reading over my shoulder from the adjacent chair, said, that's a good last line. The last line is the owl, I said. The owl is in the epilogue. Why is there an owl? Because the owl represents continuity in the face of chaos. She looked at me. The owl, she said, was a tenuan impulse purchase made to annoy someone. Yes, I agreed. That is also what it represents. She laughed. Genuine, unguarded, the kind that arrives without permission. I'd noticed, over the past few months, that this happened more when she was relaxed, which was more often than it used to be. I saved the document. Closed the tab. Looked at the accumulated word count at the bottom of the screen. A comment appeared on the published version. Bro, is there anything the main character can't do? I typed, sleep. He's working on it. Clara reached over and added one word before I could stop her. Eventually. I looked at the screen. Looked at her. That's not canonical, I said. Post it anyway, she said. I posted it. Outside the window the city was doing its ordinary business, indifferent to narrative resolution, carrying on in the way cities do regardless of what gets concluded inside the rooms above them. The evening light came through the glass at a low angle and caught the ceramic owl on the windowsill, which had, against all reasonable expectation, made the move with me. Continuity in the face of chaos. I saved the final version. Closed the laptop. Coffee, said Clara. Coffee, I agreed.